Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much, Belinda. I really appreciate the introduction. It's exactly, I'm a simple person, so the more simple it is, the better. It just makes me less nervous as well. I'm super excited about this webinar. In the morning, we had a fantastic webinar in the morning, and so I'm fully convinced that this afternoon is going to be even better than the morning. And just as we're getting started, I just want to thank BBGR for making this webinar series available and collaborating with Vision Straight. I'm excited about the value that this webinar series is going to definitely add to those optometric practices that are joining us. And so as a disclaimer, I just want to emphasize that this is just a collaborative webinar between BBGR and Vision Straight. All the content that I'm sharing and discussing throughout the webinar may at any given point in time involve BBGR related content, and I will allude to that. There are no financial kickbacks for Vision Straight in being here, and BBGR has kindly made this webinar series available for the Vision Straight staff training course to take place as a value add, obviously, for the optometric practices. And whatever that I'm talking about today is relevant and the content is accurate up until the time of production of this webinar. And so if any information changes thereafter, we will then update the necessary recordings that have taken place. I am aware that Belinda will be making this webinar available on the YouTube channel, and so that people that are subscribed to the BBGR South Africa channel, they will have access to this. And so just a quick recap from the consumer analytics webinar that we had a few weeks ago. We touched base on the importance for everyone in the optometry practice to understand the sales journey of a consumer. And this obviously has to do with the fact that we have to provide information on what we're going to be doing to that particular patient, examine them fully, obviously, educate them on the necessary diagnosis that we are finding, ask them questions to ensure that they have got clarity and understanding of what we are doing and what we are finding to be the results. And we then have to convince the consumer on what the possible management solutions will be there. And then we then persuade them on why they need to go with that particular management option, followed by the fact that we then have to deliver above expectations. So whatever it is that we agree upon with the consumer, we then have to exceed those expectations. And most importantly, we must remember that the after-service care is just as important as the pre-service care. So that was the sales journey of a consumer. Then we discussed the importance of the diversity of cultures in South Africa presents an opportunity for optometric practices if we understand the importance of language when we are communicating with our patients. And you'll see that even with today's presentation, we're going to bring that aspect of language in the different examples that we are using. And then we alluded to the driving force behind the consumer having different characteristics that you need to understand. And that is how do you exceed expectations? That's number one. Number two, the experience the consumer gets from your practice. Number three, the environment or the working environment that your team works in. Number four, how to excel or let excellence be the gold standard in the optometric practice. And most importantly, it's the education that needs to constantly be taking place. And then we also made reference to the fact that practices should have a category and classification placement card in every file. We detailed this a lot, and so please do go back to that previous webinar and download it or listen to the recording. And then lastly, we said that consumers are divided into different major categories, that being different generation types, market segments, as well as different consumer purchasing decisions. And so that's basically what we were talking about on the previous webinar. For today's purposes though, the discussion points are centered around the following: innovative communication skills with a particular focus on pricing and quotations, selling techniques, and of course, consumer mindset. And then the second part of the presentation will be focused on the management processes. How do we effectively manage the consumer and the difference between clinical versus financial management involved. And we close off the presentation with important points of discussion that you need to know in terms of the lenses, the frames, and how you follow up with the patient. And we made practical examples that are applicable for optometric practices. In the chat box, for those joining us this afternoon, If you're an optometrist, please do indicate just in the chat box that you're an optometrist. It will be great if we could have some of the optometrists engaging us on some of the discussion points that we do talk about, because sometimes I find myself saying something that perhaps might be contradictory towards what you have been training your staff. And so if you have found a different experience, let's discuss it and engage one another so that at the end of this webinar, we are all learning and we're taking something back into the practice that we can all apply. All right, so let's get going. That's basically just the introduction, and I'll really get going with regards to the discussion points that we're going to be having. And the first heading that you see in front of you, it's around pricing and quotations. With the first point of discussion is, what are some of the reasons why people don't buy? If you think about it, especially now that we're all going back into our practices, navigating this terrible pandemic, and how do we continue to grow our businesses in the midst of these trying times? You're going to have a lot of patients who used to spend on eyewear having a bit of resistance regarding spending their money on eyewear related things. And some of the reasons why they don't buy, it could be perhaps they don't have a need for it. There's no hurry. They don't trust you yet to make that financial commitment in purchasing that particular product that you are recommending. They don't have a desire perhaps, or any of those reasons could be a reason behind why they're not buying. And remember, the question that you always need to ask is, when a patient does not buy something, who loses more, the patient or the optometry practice? And so think about it this way: consumers always buy products, shoes, bags, clothes, you name it. They're always buying it to reflect who they are and what they want. Why doesn't the same apply then to optometric practices? We actually need to be thinking of our practices as a place where people come for their visual needs, as a place where people come for their eye health, a place of fashion, trends, accessories, a place whereby people want to complete their look. So a person buys shoes, they buy jeans, they buy tackies, all of that. Why not then see a pair of spectacles as just as important as any of those items that they constantly buy? And so we need to ensure that we are able to express, we have to ensure that consumers are able to express themselves through the products that we are putting in their hands, correct? So if you think about it like this, the attractive appeal of our business is greatly enhanced by the extent to which our products and services reflect consumer requirements. So if patients cannot identify themselves or see the importance of what you are talking about in relation to what they deem important, you're going to have a lot of resistance and drawback from them, and that's going to create them not buying the product. And so when prescribing products to consumers, you have to consider their lifestyle, you have to consider their personal brand, their working environments, their leisure activities. This should not be something that is only discussed in the examination room. As the patient walks in, and you'll see in some of the examples that we allude to later on in the presentation, in terms of how do staff members introduce products or discuss products when patients are filling in forms, when patients are coming back for their follow-up appointments. How does the pricing and quotations and product knowledge come into effect right at the beginning of that person visiting the optometric practice? And so we allude to this as we go on in the presentation. And so second point here, the consumer choice. I love this one because what we wrote here is that in the optometric practices, we should never give the consumer a choice between something and nothing. We must always give them a choice between something and something else, not something or something else, something and something else. What do I mean by this? Here's a practical example. When you're discussing with patients, and I'll show you how you can discuss things with patients as we go along, you either prescribing a Niva Plus or a Niva Max, right? You're either giving them one pair with a Preventia and the other pair with a Niva Plus. It's not take this one or leave that one. It's you're putting two valuable solutions in front of the patient. And so they're deciding between two important management solutions that they need, not management options. A lot of times, optometric practices speak on options. The minute you give someone an option, you are actually saying to them that they can choose this or not choose it at all. But when you give them solutions, it means you are saying this problem is fixed with this solution. This problem that you have alluded to is fixed with that other solution. So you speak solutions in relation to a problem that the patient has highlighted. Does that make sense? Not giving them an option of take this one or leave this one. That's not how we should be communicating with our patients. And so you're going to put a transitions on the main pair, and on the other pair we're going to put a night drive boost. That's how we communicate. Not communicating something that has got no value to solving their problem. That's how you must think about it. And so the next part here, the implications of the free pair. I love this because, and it bothers me a lot. To a large extent, as the industry, we have created a very low expectation of ourselves by constantly selling buy one, get one free. And consumers end up coming to our practices expecting exactly that. We should stop doing that and change that with immediate effect. The selling point from a value part should always be pair. Here are the clinical features and benefits of pair 1 versus the clinical features and benefits of pair 2. The problem that you have come and informed us about, and what we have picked up from the examinations, is that pair 1 will solve this aspect of the problem, and pair 2 will solve this part of the problem. And so don't sell the free pair as a by the way thing, because it will be treated as a by the way thing. If you refer to the free pair as a spare pair of spectacles, guess what consumers are going to do? They're going to use that pair only when the main pair is lost. So in their minds, it's like they're getting one pair of glass, not realizing that I've got different problems, and both pairs of spectacles that have been prescribed to me are solving my problems in this particular manner. So you need to always communicate that. I don't know if any of the optometrists who are joining us have gotten a different experience with regards what I've just alluded to. It's very, very important that we train our team in communicating correctly with our patients, because what happens is that if you are saying something to the patient that is different to what the staff member is saying to the patient, you are confusing the patient. And at the end of the day, the sale, it's not going to be in relation to the prescription and solution that you have recommended to that particular patient. All right. So don't sell it as a by the way. Here's the next part. Let me just go here. How should we then approach the price discussion? I'm going to go into a bit of detail and show you exactly what do you do from point A until you finish with that particular patient. And the first point that I'm going to make or emphasize on with regards how do we approach the price discussion? Well, you cannot approach the price discussion at the end if you never introduced the product discussion at the beginning. And what do I mean by that? There are certain components of the product that should be the gold standard in the management solution. Certain advanced coatings, tints, lens materials that go with certain eye conditions and prescriptions. So you always need to allude to that from the onset and not at the end of the examination procedures. And I'll show you as well, as a staff member, how do you identify an opportunity within the communication that you are doing with the patient whilst you are communicating with them, an opportunity for you to introduce the product. So for example, a patient comes in complaining of light and glare, and they're making their eye appointment and they're busy filling in the form, and they're telling you already that they're spending all their time in front of the computer, and sometimes driving at night, it's also a problem with them. As a staff member, you don't just leave that person hanging and you just continue letting them fill in the forms. That's the worst thing that you can do. Remember, I know, for example, in certain practices, staff are the ones that do the pre-screening test before the patient walks into the test room to get their eyes examined. So once Ntatenkosi has already made mention why they are there, you then say, Ntatenkosi, we have actually seen that a lot of people have been complaining about exactly what you're complaining about today, especially now that a lot of people have been in lockdown. The amount of computer work, cell phone work, smartphone work that they've been doing has increased. And so we have noticed lately, since reopening, that a lot of patients are actually complaining of the same thing. And we actually have a solution for that in Ntate Nkosi. Have you worn glasses before? Ntate Nkosi is going to tell you, yes, a long time ago, I wore glasses, but I stopped because I felt that my vision was alright. However, Ntate Nkosi, the fact that you came here complaining about something tells us that something is actually bothering you. And so we've got one of two options, depending on what the results will be. We're going to definitely perhaps give you spectacles, and on your spectacles, we're either going to put a Preventia on the one pair, which is a coating that's going to address all the light and glare issues. However, you might also might have to discuss with the optometrist having a night drive boost perhaps on your pair of spectacles. And so when you go in with the optometrist, those are some of the discussions and management solutions that the optometrist will make mention of. So I just wanted to highlight to you right now that there is something that we can do about the problem that you're having. Why do you do it like that? It's because you are laying a foundation from the onset. You are introducing that main pair of spectacles with the necessary coatings and tints from the onset. You're not testing and only waiting to the very end before you introduce that. So you have laid the foundation, right? Very, very important. It sits at the back of Ntate Nkosi's mind that, oh, okay, so there is a product that can now solve my problem. Even if Ntate Nkosi had been wearing glasses and he mentions that I used to wear glasses and they had this anti-glare thing on my glasses, that's what he's going to say, right? You then say, oh, Ntate Nkosi, there are different anti-reflective coatings. There's a basic, intermediate, and a very premium option. And so depending on the eye problem that you are having, we will then recommend the necessary coating that is going to go according to the problem that you are having. So if you had a bad experience with a particular coating before, perhaps the coating that was put on your spectacles before was not the one that you needed. And so today, we will have to upgrade you on the one that you're having. You see, whether a person has worn glasses with the necessary coating or not, you are able to introduce the coating that you want them to have. I hope that makes sense, because that's how you introduce it. And so the second point in how should we approach the discussion, when the patient goes into the examination room with the optometrist, during the examination, we have to reiterate that coating again. To see, as you are testing, remember, by the time you're testing now, you're already picking up other information that's important for the diagnosis to be reached, that speak directly into that management option, or management solution that you made reference to. And so you then say, Ntate Nkosi, you actually have more than one problem today based on the results. We're going to have to consider giving you two pairs of glasses. The one pair is going to solve this, and the other pair will solve this. And we will put two different coatings on them. And the coatings will do the following. You see, the first part of the conversation was you introduced the importance of coatings. The second part, you're now introducing the importance of the second pair. You're not waiting until the very end to introduce those products. I see here we've got a question here, a comment. Let me just open them up. Okay, Belinda, someone is just mentioning of the audio. I think you can just send them a private message. I think the problem is on his side because no one else is complaining about the audio. So I think just check the chat. I think there's an optometrist here who is having a problem with their audio. We will definitely.
I will send them. If the problem is on his side, I will send them a message.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So that's basically how you introduce the the product discussion long before you introduce the price discussion. And so at the end of the examination, when you're ready to now select the products and conclude on the management solutions that you have recommended, it's much easier for the patient to agree on that which you guys have already discussed. So even when you're now giving, let's say the patient now went with the optometrist in, and now the optometrist is going to hand back the test card to the staff member to conclude on the pricing discussions. You know that at phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 of that whole entire journey of a patient, certain products were made mention. And so if optometrist wrote on the card a Preventia or a Niva Max, you know as a staff member that this is what the optometrist would have discussed with the patient. And so you then have the confidence to then re-emphasize, to say, sir, Ntatenkos, as the optometrist has written on your test card, this is what they're prescribing for you. What I love, you see, now you're introducing a different component. You then say, what I love about this product is that you're going to experience the following with your vision. That's how you introduce it. You as a staff member, you then have the opportunity to re-emphasize the importance of that management option. And now you then start discussing the pricing and say, Mr. Nkosi, we just checked your medical aid benefits, and this is what they're going to be covering you. And the spectacles are as follows, and so there's a difference of the following. That Nkosi is not going to give you hassles. The only hassle he's going to give you is, why didn't my medical aid cover everything? And then you're in a position that you're saying, that Nkosi, your medical aid is structured as follows. So you're moving the conversation away from the spectacles. You're making it the issue on the medical aid. And he's then fully aware that, oh, okay, I need to change my medical aid going forward because the products that I need are not covered by my medical aid. Not the other way around, where we now have to compromise on the management solution because the medical aid is not paying for that. We've got a different approach to how we're dealing with it based on the information that I've just provided to you guys. And so if a consumer complains about the price being too high, your approach then is you have to focus the conversation on the value, the features and benefits of the product, the impact it will have on their visual environment, the expectations and how it's going to solve the problems that they're having. Because you've already made mention of its importance to everyday life that they're going to experience. So that's basically how you introduce the price discussion. Let's look at the next one quickly. How should we be writing quotations or giving quotations? Well, this is very, very important. There's no excuse under the sun why we're writing quotations on pieces of paper. That should not be a no-go area. What is very, very important though is that every staff member needs to know what are the most common products in the practice that are used every single day. What are the clinical features and benefits of those products? What does the top 5 medical aid that you guys are working in the practice covers pertaining to those commonly used products? So you must know that, okay, as an anti-reflective coating in our practice, we are constantly using we've got the following 4 different types of coatings, whether it's a Niva Plus, a Niva Max, or a night drive boost or a prevention. You then know that if that goes on a single vision pair of spectacles, this is the price. If it goes on someone who's on a particular medical aid, this is and it's a savings option, this is how much it goes. You need to know that like it's like a Bible. It's very, very important, because what happens is that when you are comfortable and confident in your pricing and your product knowledge, it makes the discussions around pricing and giving quotations much, much more effective, and you become more efficient. And it's clear that you're not going to be sounding like you're sales pitching people, but you're going to be clear on, sir, you need this because it does the following, and this is how much it's going to cost. If you don't go with this option, you compromising your vision as follows. So that's information that as a staff member, you need to be comfortable in knowing. It's not the responsibility of the optometrist alone, because a lot of times optometrists are not there. Patients are the ones that are going to be asking you, can I get a quotation on the following? And you need to know that these are the most common different ways in which a patient may ask you that question in terms of, can I get a quotation on a pair of multifocals with the following code? Then you need to know that, oh, okay, this is how I'm going to approach this necessary quotation, and this is what I'm going to say to the patient. So as a practice, I urge all of you, spend time on a weekly basis discussing the following: product knowledge, pricing regarding those products that you guys are selling in the practice, medical aids, writing quotations, the different objections that you might get from patients. It needs to be something that you do on a weekly basis, and you can choose one topic weekly that you can focus on as a team, and next week you do the following one, and then you create a file in your practice that is got like, it will be like a standard operating procedures manual where you then know that, oh, we've discussed this one, you put it in the file. We've discussed this one, we put it on the file. And every person in the practice needs to have a copy of that so that you can always, if there are challenges that appear at a later stage, you can always make reference to, oh, but we discussed this. If we've discussed this, but we're still having a problem with this thing, how is it that we can improve on it? So if you don't have that type of approach, you'll be all over the place and lose a lot of sales because you're not effectively communicating with the patient. So that's basically, I'm just going fast on this section simply because I'm laying a foundation on where I want us to go with regards to this particular topic. The next one, when should we be closing the deal? This is very, very important. Too early is when you attempt to close before establishing in the consumer's mind significant value of the product that you are selling. It's so important that you understand that consumers buy the benefits the product has for them. And so the product that you are talking about must scratch where it itches the most. You got it? It needs to scratch where it itches the most for the patient. And so discuss value first and then attempt to close, never before. And I'll give you examples of that as we go along. And lastly, make it easy for people to, make it easy for people to buy from you. What do I mean by this? You cannot start talking about pricing and quotations without establishing trust. If a patient is just walking at the mall, actually right now they're not walking. Everyone is going to be coming to your practice making appointments based on a particular problem that they have. And even before they come to your practice, a person is going to phone and say, hi, I wanted to book my appointment to have my eyes tested. I feel I've got a problem on the following, and before I come in, can I just get an indication of how much you guys charge for spectacles? Use that opportunity to say, sir, how much are your, before you even discuss the pricing, build trust, ask questions, identify what the problem of the patient is, identify if they've worn glasses before, identify if they've had a bad experience with that, identify what are the expectations pertaining to eyewear, so that when you're now talking about, sir, a pair of multifocals with the following coat on them will cost this much, you now know that you're going to be speaking directly into the person's problem and not just be giving a quotation, because if you have not established trust and making sure that you can effectively communicate with that particular individual, if you rush into giving the price, all they hear is a number instead of hearing why they need what you're providing. So make it easy for people to communicate with you and or to buy from you, and you can only do that once they trust you. So even from the onset, when people just come for those appointments, don't rush to giving out prices and quotations without establishing what problem is the product that we are going to be giving a quotation on solving. I don't know if any of the optometrists have a different viewpoint on this point. I see you've got a comment here. Let's see. Okay, Belinda will address that comment there. It's just sound issues pertaining to some of the people that are struggling to get their sound. All right. So I'll continue here. So here's a quick tip that I'm encouraging all the people that are joining us here. Here's my viewpoint. All staff members need to be wearing the product. If you guys are dealing with BBGR, for example, as the supplier of lenses, and you're dealing with another company as a supplier of frames, for example, the team, someone has to be wearing the necessary advanced or premium BBGR pair. Someone needs to be wearing another type of pair. And so it's very, very important that staff members have an experience of the products that the practice sells on a day-to-day basis. Why is this important? When you know the impact the product has had on you personally, it makes it easier for you to address any concerns, objections, challenges that patients may bring forth to you pertaining to the product. And it's a quick way of making it easy for you to deal with that particular query. So just something that I don't know if any of the optometrists that find that if patients, if staff are wearing the product and they're communicating with patients. For example, if I was in practice or when I was in practice, one of the things that we do as a practice, we will say, okay, there's 6 of us in the practice and 4 of us out of the 6 are wearing glasses. Everyone had to understand what each of the people that are wearing spectacles are experiencing. What was their vision before they got that particular pair of spectacles, and what is their vision like afterwards? So that we then know when Tatem Kosi comes in and you want to make it easy for them to buy from you, and you can see that Tatem Kosi is not convinced that he needs to get the Preventia on this pair of spectacles as opposed to getting a Niva Plus. You are then in a position to say, Tatem Kosi, I personally, as Lerato, I don't wear glasses. I've never had a problem with my vision. I've had my eyes examined multiple times. However, Lorraine, next to me here, has been wearing spectacles over a period of time. And she used to actually have the same coating on your pair of glasses that you have and that she used to have. Lorraine, what was your experience before? Then Lorraine joins in the conversation. If Lorraine cannot join in the conversation, you are then saying, one thing that Lorraine has always made mention is that when she was using the Niva Plus, this is her visual experience with it. She thought everything was great, and it was, up until we introduced a Preventia for her. And since then, Lorraine has indicated to us that this is how she's experiencing her visual environment. Simply because Lorraine complained even while she was still wearing the product that she was wearing before. So you must remember, all products are important. All products are relevant. It just depends on the eye problem that is existing. And so products that we are recommending are going to go with the necessary problem that they are solving. So if a particular product is not solving the problem the way you want it, it just simply means we need to upgrade that particular product. And so Tatem Kosi, that's basically why I'm recommending this product for you. You see what I did there? It's just a conversation, guys. You don't have to make it difficult for people to buy from you. Make it as easy friendly as you possibly can. Someone just made a comment here. She says, yes, staff wearing the product is a must. It works. And so I encourage those practices who are logged in right now and have always been thinking of, we're going to just give discounts and specials and people in our practice can just buy things at cost. Don't just do it or leave it at that point. Use the advantage of how your staff member experiences the product for themselves and then discuss it amongst the staff. And you'll find it's going to be much easier to talk about products that you're recommending to patients when staff themselves know how they experience it. And lastly, I'll just do this. Remember, as salespeople, we are problem solvers. All our discussions need to be around the problem that we are solving. The consumer is persuaded more by the depth of our conviction than by the height of our logic. What do I mean by that? We need to always put our best foot forward. When you remember in the beginning when I introduced products to Tatem Nkosi who was still going through the pre-examination test, and I alluded to certain products, I put the best product before him so that when we now come with the diagnosis at the end, we can come back to that best product that Nkosi needs. But if you start with a low base, it's going to be very difficult for you to then say, Nkosi, yeah, I know I made mention of an ARC and I said it's going to cost this much. However, based on the problem and the diagnosis, it's actually going to cost much more. You're going to lose in Nkosi. So always start at your best place or your best product and then work your way down. It's much easier to work your way down than to work your way up. You're going to lose that sale. So always think about it this way. All right, so here's some quick tips. Number 1, selling is a transference of feelings. You can only transfer what you yourself are feeling. It's easier to sell something that you believe in, are committed to, are fully convinced about. It's much easier. And so I urge everyone, train yourself in product knowledge, sales knowledge. How do you convince the patient? you have to be confident and competent in that, so that when you're communicating with patients, you're projecting that which you are fully convinced about. It's like going to a restaurant. If a waiter comes and they bring you the menu and you ask the waiter, what do you recommend? And the waiter then just says, yeah, everything is great. You lose confidence in that waiter, right? But if that waiter or waitress says to you, oh, today we've got the following, and the chef has cooked it like this, and this is what I'm recommending you take it with, you don't even going to bother looking at the rest of the menu, because all you'll be hearing is, wow, this guy wishes that he will be eating the very same meal that he's talking about. So people pick up that energy. That's why I'm saying that selling is a transference of feelings. So very, very important tip that you need to remember. Number 2, people are always looking at what are they going to be gaining if they go with what you're recommending versus what will they be losing if they don't. So if they're not persuaded by the product and its value, they're not going to go for it. So your confidence as a staff member in your own product will determine the consumer's confidence in it. And people will pick up that which you are talking about, you actually believe that it's going to work. And so you need to know product drawbacks. You need to know what are people seeing with a Niva Plus versus a Niva Max versus a Prevention. You need to know the different lens materials that go with a particular coating. You need to know and understand the difference between someone who has been wearing the T7, the transitions, all these years, and now BBGR has introduced a new transitions. What is the difference? What are people going to, or patients going to experience with the new one? It's very, very important that you understand that, so that you can communicate the benefits much effectively. And you remember, you're communicating the benefits from the value that they're going to add to that particular patient. Number 1 is the value factor, which is what I've just alluded to now, but I'll just make a point here to say that people buy value. They see value in you, but they will get the value from your product. And so you need to constantly be honest when you're talking to a patient, and people will see that. Hey, if you know that the product is not going to work for that particular patient, why are you recommending it? Tell them, and I'll show you now in terms of the type of approach that you have in discussing value. It's going to come up in the next few slides. And so you must sell from a belief base that is tied into what you believe as a person, as a staff member. So you guys need to spend time as teams dealing with, guys, what value does this product give to patients? What type of patient will come in needing this particular type of product? It's not enough for you just to know that an ARC does the following, a transition does the following. You need to know the impact that product is having on a particular patient. All right. And lastly, second last year, don't sales pitch people. People are going to be connected to your passion, but most importantly, they're going to connect to your genuineness and your authenticity. So when you're communicating with patients, are you genuine? Are you authentic? Are you real with them? Because if you're not doing that and all you're doing is giving them sales pitches, you're going to lose them to another practice where they're going to get that from another practice. And so you need to make sure that, as an example here, when I say practical examples, make the communication with the patient personal. Always, with every single patient. When I was in practice, guys, this is how personal it was for me personally, is the longest that I'd gone for with me recommending a product to a patient and a patient going with that which I've recommended for them was 18 months. Because in that 18 months, consistently, with every single patient, I took my time, not rushing the process. Winning them over is not you thinking that it's enough that you're running a special in the practice. Even if someone came in and they have been coming to the practice for the last 10 years and they keep getting the same pair of spectacles and they're always spending 8,000 rands in the particular practice, I will still communicate with them as if it's the first time they're wearing that pair of spectacles. Why? I'm never comfortable as a salesperson thinking that this person who has been wearing a transitions lens is all that they're going to wear and they're comfortable with that. I'm going to always be thinking, is this person happy? Is this person satisfied? Does this product still give them the best possible vision that they need? Is there anything else that is better than the product that they've been using? And if the answer to that for me is a yes, I'm going to go and encourage them, show them the importance of them upgrading the current management solution to the next one. And when I communicate with them in that tone, in that manner, I'm moving the conversation away by just trying to get a sale from them. They see that, wait a minute, Meneer van der Merwe, sir, in your working environment, what do you do? Meneer van der Merwe tells me that he's an attorney and he spends hours in front of a PC reading and all of that. I'm going to say, Meneer van der Merwe, I know you have enjoyed this product that you've been wearing over the last few years. However, technology has improved over the years and we've got alternative products which are better than the one that you have always been wearing. Would you be willing to consider upgrading the current management solution that has been recommended for you? I'm telling you guys, once you communicate value and make the discussions more personal for you, it changes the communication between yourself and the patient. And so if there's anyone who has had a different experience or can emphasize even with a different example, please do share in the comment section. Let's move on, guys. Communication technique, guys. See, we don't have a lot of time, so I'll just go through these very quickly. Communication technique number 1. This is the point of today, basically. You always have to start logically and end emotionally. Why? Logic makes people think, but emotion makes people act, right? So both are very important, but you need to understand that people don't buy for logical reasons. People buy for emotional reasons. And so, for example, Mariki, this is how I'll communicate with Mariki. I'll be like, Mariki, I see that fashion is very, very important for you. Are you on Instagram? Are you on Facebook? How much time do you spend on social media? Mariki is going to tell me that actually I do spend a lot of time on social media. How important is fashion for you? I mean, right now I can see you nicely, smartly dressed. You look like someone who's very trendy and very aware of the different trends that are relevant, and it's like you're above the trends. You know, you're speaking directly into Mariki's approach to trends, fashion. And so when you now introduce eyewear to them, you have to then communicate eyewear needs on the same tone that they see all other trend and fashion related things. And so, Mariki, how many pairs of shoes do you have? I can't count, I've lost count. Mariki, how many pairs of bags? I see where you're going with this, Obi. I see where you're going with this. So now that you see where I'm going with this, Mariki, the way eyewear has evolved over the years is part of the look. It's no longer an isolated component that just helps you to see. You know, both the frame and the lens are just as important. You know, sometimes I get very, very surprised when I see a person wearing an amazing frame with poor quality lenses. It messes up their entire look. It's as if here you have this fashionista or trend person having this amazing look, and that entire look is compromised by the pair of spectacles that they have, simply because all they focused on was the expensive pair of frames and not the good quality pair of spectacle lenses. And so, Mariki, today I really just want to encourage you and indicate to you the importance of not only addressing your fashion approach, but also the visual experience that you're going to get from a prevention. And I can see all along, I mean, I can see from the optometrist test card here, the nose that they've made here, you are like a -3. So for a -3, the optometrist, this is the reason why they recommended this lens material with this lens coating, is because if we don't put this lens coating on this lens material and we just give you a basic option, how it will look like, especially for someone like you who takes lots of pictures. And you see what I'm doing there, guys? I'm connecting to Mariki on an emotional level, even though I started off the conversation from a logical point of view. And I keep going back and forth, the logical reasons as well as the emotional reasons. Because when Mariki decides to spend the 12,000 rands, they're going to spend the 12,000 rands based on the emotional component and not the logical component, right? So that's communication tactic number one. Anyone else with a different approach, please do share in the comment section. I would love to hear what you guys have to say. The next part here, communication tactic number two, we sell on the tangible, but we close on the intangible. What do I mean by this? We need to be sensitive to the value of the consumer's time, be aware of the financial challenges that consumers have. Very, very important that we as staff members within optometric practices are trustworthy, are knowledgeable, and are genuine when we are communicating with the patients. Number four, we need to be able to explain product drawbacks. For example, how would you go about with this one? Here's a patient that you guys have never seen before, or a customer that you guys have never seen before, comes into the practice. They're filling in the patient information form. You can see they're already wearing a pair of spectacles. Ask them, Tabo, I see you wearing a pair of spectacles. When did you get them? No, I got them 2 years ago. Was it your first pair of spectacles, Tabo? No, I've been wearing glasses for the last 10 years. Wow, 10 years. And well, I see that you've got a coating on your glasses. And do you find that you enjoyed seeing with that coating? Guess what Tabo is going to say to you? Yeah, I did in the beginning, but you know what? I feel like after a few months, my vision goes back to I feel like I still have a problem with glare and light. There we go. Opportunity presents itself. It's a perfect opportunity for you then, right at the beginning, to say, Tabo, I'm not sure if you're aware, there are different anti-reflective coatings. We've got basic options, intermediate options, and very high-end advanced options. And so perhaps over the last 10 years, you have actually been getting the most basic option. And we'll see now when the optometrist is going to test your eyes. But perhaps your problem requires something more advanced. And so we've got a Lever Max or a prevention that we will definitely advise or recommend for you, because the benefits of a premium anti-reflective coating as compared to a basic one will be the following. And as you have complained right now that you are not happy with your experience before, and then what do you do as a staff member? You write it on the test card or whatever form that they're filling in, and make note to say a patient wore glasses. This is the way that classification and placement sheet that we mentioned at the previous webinar comes into effect. You will just indicate that Tabo is not happy with current pair of spectacles, been wearing glasses for the last 10 years. I advised, or I alluded to the fact that there's a possibility of him getting more premium anti-reflective coating like a Preventia or a Niva Plus. You see how he introduced it? You have already alluded to. So when the optometrist now goes into the examination room and tests the patient, is going to keep making reference to the benefits and the clinical features and the value that that recommended product is going to have on top. That's how you communicate with patients, guys. Don't make it complicated. And the next one here, you need to be interested in the consumer and their needs. And next one here, always increase your knowledge base as a staff member. And lastly, get testimonials and consumer feedback from patients all the time. If a patient was satisfied with the service that they got from the practice, and they were like, wow, this was very refreshing, I'm so happy that I came here. Be grateful and acknowledge that we are here to help and add value to you. And look, if you don't mind, that which you've just shared, if you don't mind going onto our social media platform and just, here's our link to our social media. And this, if you don't mind sharing that with your network on social media, ask for those testimonies, ask for feedback, very, very important, so that Tabo stays with you for the next 10 years. Communication tactic, I don't know if any of the optometrists have a different feel on this, or any of the staff members have experienced it differently. But for me, in my years of experience, and that's 12 years in as an optometrist, and even when I was a student, I spent from first year working in optometric practices. And so I understand where the opportunities lie in terms of communication tactics that we can employ in our practices to win the patient over. And so it brings us to our third one. Communication tactic number 3. We say here, selling isn't telling, it is asking. It's all about the connection that you are trying to build. It's like a relationship that you are trying to establish between yourself and the consumer. And so you want to get an understanding of what is important to that consumer. That's why you ask questions. So don't be in a rush to tell patients what they need. Be in a rush to ask questions about what is problematic, what do they deem important. And then when you communicate products and solutions, you're going to be speaking directly to what addresses that problem for them. And so it's going to be easier for you to sell whatever it is that you want to sell them once you've already established what it is that is important to them. Tactic number 4, always talk value. We made reference to this before. Tactic number 5, the main responsibility in selling is around the following. We inform. Number 2, we then educate. Number 3, we convince. And number 4, we persuade. So this is a summary of what we alluded to on the consumer analytics webinar that we did a couple of weeks ago. And I actually made reference to the sales journey of a patient or a consumer from the time they walk into the optometric practice. But if I had to summarize it, you inform, this is what we're going to be doing. You educate, this is what's wrong with you. You convince, this is what we're going to do to solve the problem. And then you persuade. If you go with what we're recommending, this will be the result. If you don't go with what we're recommending, this will be the impact. That's exactly what we do in selling, right? And tactic number 6, I say here, be people or service orientated. What do we mean by this? You need to understand the difference between sympathy and empathy. What is the difference? Sympathy, you feel exactly how another person feels. Empathy, on the other hand, you don't feel how the other person feels like, but you understand what they're going through. You understand that this is how it's impacting them in their personal life. But you go further. You then address the solutions that are available for them to not have that problem any further. That's what you do. You have to put yourself in the patient's shoes and then connect with them on that level. Once you have connected with them on that level, it's easier then to take them out of that level, to say, look, you are actually fortunate to be here because we've got the solution that's going to address that problem that you have. The amount of hours that you're spending in front of a computer makes absolutely no sense why you are wearing this particular pair of spectacles. This is what we're recommending so that you can actually enjoy working. You can actually not be frustrated with your working environment, with your lifestyle, with everything, because this is what this product is going to actually do. So understand the difference between empathy and sympathy. Consumers, I'll say this again, consumers buy you before they buy what you sell. So always remember that. And here's a quick tip. I love this one. Learn consumer names. Learn consumer names. I carry with me a notebook wherever I go. I'll be at a conference, and at a conference, I will keep this small little notebook in my pocket, in my jacket, if I'm wearing a jacket. And every time I manage to connect with an optometrist, I will quickly make a note of exactly that experience. It's going to be a daunting process, but in the beginning, especially now, as patients are coming in, make a note, have a diary if you need to have, and write, today I helped the following people, and this is what I did. And I used to have a logbook as an eyewear consultant. I used to have a logbook in the practice that I kept for myself with every single patient that I assisted. Why? When that person comes back 2 weeks later to collect their spectacles, and I greet them, hey, Legato, how are you? Good to see you. You came to collect your glasses. Awesome. I can't wait for you to try this pair of spectacles. I connect with them even post the service that they got given the very first time. And I'm telling you, when you are able to learn consumer names, it just sets you apart from everywhere else that they go. So That's just a side tip that I'm just giving you guys for free. I don't know, anyone struggle with names, or anyone who has had a good experience with learning people's names that come to the practice, and what is that response like when you see that people actually love it when you remember who they are and when was the last time that they were here? I'm telling you guys, it will set you apart in the practice and it will help you in winning patients over. All right, let's move on. Clinical versus financial management. We're coming to a close very shortly, but I say here, consumers want you to consult them, not sell to them, right? The consumers want you to listen to them and be able to adapt to their needs. Consumers want you to understand their precise needs and be able to manage that. They want you to be real and authentic with them. And lastly, always remember, they cannot assess cost effectively, but they can determine the value of what they are purchasing. So it's important for you as a staff member or a team to make sure that they understand what will they be gaining if they go with what you're recommending versus what will they be losing if they don't. So I see we've got a comment here. Kamesh says that she remembers her patients most of the time. Keep working at that. The more you are cognizant about it, the easier it becomes. And here's the thing. Be intentional about learning consumer names of people that are of the opposite race than you. It's going to help with the connection. I'm telling you, when you are able to connect, if someone pronounces their name, don't be too quick to just say, Sawbon or Siabonga or whatever, and you just write Sia. Don't be comfortable as a Caucasian individual with Siabonga saying, but you can just call me Sia. Engage Sia and say, Sia, what does your name mean? How do I pronounce it? No, actually, I want to actually learn. It's very, very important that I can connect with you. And do you prefer me calling you Siabonga or Sia? What do most people call you that you connect with? Engage Sia on that front, or Siabonga on that front. And you find that Siabonga relaxes. When you talk to him, he is very relaxed. When you start recommending products and solutions to them, Siabonga is relaxed because why? Siabonga connected with you. So find that opportunity. If you're a Tswana speaking individual and here's an Afrikaans speaking person that come to the practice, or a Xhosa speaking person, connect with them with just understanding their names. I see we've got another comment here. Let me just see what the comment says. Leonie Hubert says, I'm terrible with names. Remember the good ones and the bad ones. Now I make a concerted effort and the use of a memory technique related to a story about the patient. Make notes on your cards. Absolutely agree. Hence, I struggle as well. I carry around with me a notebook all the time. And that's very, very important. Guys, the whole thing about communication is that you want to connect. Once you have connected, you are going to find it much easier to convince the patient on the management solution that you are recommending for them. You cannot sell anything to anyone that you have not connected with. It's much easier to sell just about anything when a person is convinced that you and him or you and her are connected. It makes the process much, much easier. And so just remember that about the names. Go out of your way to learn consumer names of people that are different from you and start that communication level on that point. You will see, especially now that we're going back to the new normal now, and more people are going to keep coming into your practice, you're going to see an opportunity with regards to that. And so let's move on here. Thanks to all the people that have been commenting. I really value those comments and viewpoints. It's really, really important for me to understand what your guys' experiences are. All right. Concluding this presentation here, it's just on lenses. And, oh, by the way, before I even touch on lenses, I remember something now. Let's say a consumer says they need time to think about the management solution that you have recommended, right? What is your response in that? Well, this is what we recommend. You need to probe them more in a friendly and kind manner to discover what the challenges are. If the challenge is a financial one, don't be too focused on downgrading the management solution that you have spent the last 45 minutes discussing and convincing them on. I've seen this shocking thing with a lot of practices. Quickly, a person can't afford something, the medical aid is not going to be covering that, and they rush towards downgrading the management solution. And they all of a sudden, the person needs a Preventia, for example, as a lens coating, and all of a sudden they leave there with a single vision pair of spectacles that have got absolutely no coating. That's madness. What you need to be doing is be confident in the service that you've rendered, the product and your pricing. Be able to understand the value that a product is going to be having on that particular patient. And so from the minute the person walks into the practice, throughout the entire process, to the very end of that product selection, don't avoid speaking benefits, clinical features, value, impact on lifestyle in relation to the problem that that person made reference to. Because that problem, it's what resulted in that person leaving their home, coming, making the appointment and coming to your practice. So always stay glued to that, so that even when the objection on medical aid comes or affordability comes, you have the certainty that you as a practice have done everything that you possibly can in knowing that this person is convinced that this is what they need. And if that person needs to go and get the necessary, make the necessary adjustments in their finances in order to come and get the product that they need, so be it. Don't be so quick to downgrade. The only reason why you're downgrading a management solution is because you never spend enough time ensuring that the person is convinced that they need that which you have recommended, right? So as we talk about lenses, this is a challenge to all optometric practices. One thing though that I find very shocking when it comes to lenses, or actually eyewear products, is that employees have not been adequately trained on product knowledge and how to sell those products. To all those practices that are joining us here, a week should not go by, especially now as we rebuilding our optometric practices, where you're not spending at least a minimum 30 minutes per week, minimum, guys. That's like the bare minimum, just to be able to have everyone on the same level, discussing product knowledge in relation to consumer problems, in relation to how do we sell this product, in relation to, guys, our promotions are as follows on different social media platforms and on our company website. And this is what the information that we're giving from a marketing point of view to our consumers. As a team, you need to come together regularly. We're going to do this webinar on innovative techniques in terms of structuring the practice in the next few weeks. And I will give a breakdown on what do you discuss on week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, and so forth. But right now, what you need to be doing as a practice, spending time understanding the following. What material goes with what prescription? You need to be doing that regularly. Number 2, you need to be able to explain and demonstrate the benefits the different lens materials have to the consumer. As a team, you need to understand that you should never compromise on the quality of the lens material in relation to the price. You need to talk about the upgrade opportunities that may exist. Product knowledge. Is everyone on the same page? The staff member who recently joined the practice 6 months ago versus the person that has been in the practice for 5 years. How do we get them on the same page? What do we do from a product point of view in discussing and training our teams on product knowledge? Guys, when you are working for a pharmaceutical company or a frame company or a lens manufacturing company, a lot of time and investment is spent on training the sales team on product knowledge, on how to sell those products, on how to communicate those products. So I find it very shocking that practices don't spend enough time understanding the product and making sure that everyone is on the same page. So I urge everyone, please go back and do that. The next one here, the clinical features and benefits of product. Spend time together as a team. I see we've got a comment here. Before we close. Creason was just, she says here, once they leave to think about it, they will not return to buy it in most cases. Check what did you do from the onset. That's what I would recommend. Go back and look at, in the sales, you cannot let them leave if the sales journey was faulty. So if the sales journey was faulty in terms of you missed a step, you didn't start communicating product from the onset, what you are busy saying in the test room and what the staff are busy saying in outside of the test room, if there's no link between them, they're definitely not going to come back. So if you have done everything that you're supposed to be doing from the minute they walk in to the time they leave, or they now are proposing that objection, then there's nothing that you can do. But if you did not follow the necessary steps from the onset to the last part, definitely when they leave, they're going to go and get their products elsewhere. So you cannot do that approach if there's a step or a process that you did not follow to the T. Here's the thing. What you say, what in my experience, only happens in general basic optometry. In cases where someone deals with pediatric optometry, advanced contact lenses, low vision, visual therapy, pathology, whenever they're dealing with patients in relation to those components, patients, a lot of the times, they leave and come back because they couldn't afford the necessary products. Why is it that this only applies with general optometry? You will never find a patient who sees a particular pediatric optometrist going to go get their management at another pediatric optometrist. That never happens. I see we've got Leonie here. Please, Leonie, please do comment on what I've just said right now pertaining to if you did the pediatric examination processes. A patient is not going to go to send the stock in the Vereniging to go get the management option there because she was cheaper. No, a patient understands fully that this is what I need. I just can't afford it now, but this is what I need. And so they go and come back to get that. So that's basically, it's only happening with, if we only did the bare minimum and the basic type of optometry, then that's my experience and my approach to that. And finally here, guys, the team needs to understand the difference between entry level and premium products. Quotations, writing quotations, very, very important. We made reference to this. So go and spend time together as a team, making sure that how do you give a quotation on the phone? How do you give a quotation on social media? How do you give a quotation on email? How do you give a quotation with someone who's in the practice? There are different strategies that are applicable to each and every one of those components that I've mentioned. Is the team on the same level in giving out quotations in that regard? Discussing lens enhancements. When do you introduce it? At what level are staff supposed to know lens enhancements versus what the optometrist level is supposed to be? What connects the two together in terms of patient communication? Because a lot of the times, patients are communicating at the level of staff, not on the technical component, if they don't understand the features, benefits, and the value of that product. And lastly, the medical aid challenges. Spend time together as a team discussing the medical aid challenges that exist. And so, Leonie has answered us here. She says, yep, they build a relationship with a specialist practice, will usually heed your advice, try provide a service that they cannot get anywhere else. I absolutely love that response because she says here, patients trust your judgment. Guys, there's no way if you connected with a patient on an emotional level, you connected with them on a psychological level, you spoke value, you indicated, you did all the necessary tests and procedures. You literally spend time ensuring that they understand what is wrong with them versus what they need to get. For that person to walk away to go get their product somewhere else, guess what's going to happen? They're going to get something cheaper and eventually they're going to be frustrated with that cheap product that they got, and they will come back. Simple as that. Thank you very much for that. And so with the medical aid challenges, as we come to a close, this is very, very important that you understand the different challenges that are existing with medical aid in terms of the most common medical aids that you guys use as a practice. Go over and over and over and over the different discussions pertaining to that with your team so that you are all on the same page. And with regards frames, I'll close it off here. With regards frames, I see the comments. I'll get to the comments right now. Current trends and styles, different looks, explanations pertaining to the different looks and trends, multiple management options that are available, brand knowledge. All this knowledge, we're going to do a webinar on dispensing, and we will spend a lot of time on lenses and frames. And so I just wanted to make reference that currently, right now, as we are all communicating, how are you communicating on these different components that I've made mention that you are looking at on your screen pertaining to frames? Let's just quickly go to those comments as we close this presentation. Be prepared to make allowances and try help if necessary. She says here, remember though to take cognizance of the situation. That's very, very, very important. Yeah. And then Christian says, yeah, that is we end up downgrading the coatings to make it more affordable. Perfect. All I'm trying to say is that if you don't start at the highest possible level of what is the ideal and best management options available to that patient, you will not be able to land at the bare minimum in terms of, okay, this person could have gotten a Preventia, but they couldn't afford it, and you now giving them a Niva Max. Versus, you started with the Niva Plus, and now they can't afford, and now they have to leave without even a pair of spectacles with the necessary coating on it. So all I'm trying to say is start at the best possible level so that even when you have to downgrade the solution, you are not landing at the point at which the patient is not benefiting visually in terms of their management options. And guys, that's basically it. Any further comments? In our books, we make reference to this exceeding expectations and follow-up structure. I encourage everyone, go and get a copy of our book. You can get in touch with us. In our book, we do a breakdown of when do you follow up with the different patients, customers, and clients, and at any given point in time, whether it's 72 hours, 10 to 14 days, 3 months, 6 months, or 1 year, how and what you should be following up on. And we break it down in our book in terms of the different approaches to follow up that you can be able to employ in your practice, especially now that you're seeing patients as we have reopened our practices. Very, very important that you understand when you're supposed to follow up, why you should supposed to follow up, how you should follow up, and what possible scenarios could exist when you do follow up. So it's something that the team needs to spend time on dealing with this. And there's a webinar that we're going to do as well in terms of integrating this entire webinar that I've just done on information or innovative communication skills. How does that then fit into social media and communicating it in terms of your social media? A lot of practices, if you see this image that's in front of you right now, a lot of practices look exactly like that. It's a lot of noise. All you get onto social media is, all you see is promotions, pricing, specials, deals, that frame, and they're not communicating anything to the patient. And then they spend all this time on social media, but not seeing the necessary results, and then are frustrated that, but wait a minute, I've been on Instagram for the last year and it's got no impact, none whatsoever, on my patients, or Facebook, whatever. So currently, the Vision Straight Instagram page does not look like this. I just put this here specifically to highlight that don't make noise on social media. You need to be in a position where you are communicating in order to connect with your targeted audience. How do you create thoughtful content? How do you remain authentic and transparent through your social media? How do you create links that are relevant to what the consumer needs? And so we will do a webinar on this very soon, and we'll show you exactly how your social media needs to be positioned. And yeah, as a conclusion actually, look at your business approach currently. How are you going to communicate with the different generation types, the different people that belong to different market segments? How do you communicate with the Xhosa speaking person, the Zulu speaking person, depending on where your practice is located? If you're seeing majority Sotho speaking people, or you're seeing the majority Afrikaans speaking people, or a bit of a mixture, what is our approach in terms of communication with the different groups that I've alluded to? We trust that when you go back into practice, this information that we have shared pertaining to communication will create new capabilities for your practice, which will result in you identifying the growth areas. For example, innovative communication tactics could be, that I didn't mention here, could be moving from just using emails and your SMS system to using WhatsApp. The opportunities that WhatsApp presents, that you can communicate through WhatsApp, and it can result in a growth area for your practice, because a lot of people now are spending time on their phone. So when an image pops up that speaks directly to a particular thing that's of importance to that patient, will have more impact compared to an SMS. If I look at my phone right now, I probably have a lot of messages that because I will see the header and I'll be like, who's this? Or especially if it's not from someone, but from a company, I don't open that message as quickly enough as I would a WhatsApp message. So you need to identify growth opportunities for your practice. And profiling is very, very important. Profile. Go and download or listen to that webinar we did previously on consumer analytics. It will help you with profiling. And everything that we do basically is how or what distinguishes you from having a consumer advantage versus having a competitive advantage. And we are going to do a webinar on that as well. And so please do connect with us online and all social media platforms as Vision Straight. If you want more information or assistance, please do reach out to us. And also on my personal email as @obimalope. And my email address, for those that need it, I'll just put it on the chat box here. My email address is obi@visionstraight.co.za. So I've just put it up here as I'm speaking to you guys. But yeah, that's it.